Hello, I'm Dr. Gloria Horsley.
And I'm her daughter, Dr. Heidi Horsley.
Heidi and I want to welcome you to Open to Hope Conversations, the podcast.
We believe that the greatest gift you can give yourself after a loss is hope, using this moment to connect with others who have not only survived but thrived.
So let's get started. Welcome to the Open to Hope show. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Horsley, with my daughter and co-host,
Dr. Heidi Horsley.
Well, Heidi, I'm excited about our show today because we've got a wonderful expert to talk with us about spirituality and grief, because I think the spirituality piece just doesn't come into play enough.
Yeah, and like you said, it's an important topic, and a lot of our listeners are very interested in hearing about it. So we are going to talk today with Dr. Janet Roseman. Dr. Roseman is an associate professor in integrative medicine at the Dr. Karan Patel College of Osteopathic Medicine. She teaches courses in spirituality and medicine and death and dying for medical school students. She is a grief coach and an intuitive healer. She has received numerous awards and is the founding director of the Sydney Project in Spirituality and Medicine and Compassionate Care. And she is the author of the book, The Eternal Bond: Daughters Honor Their Mothers on the Other Side. Welcome to our podcast, Dr. Janet.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me, Doctors Horsley. I'm very happy to be here. So I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
So I was just curious, what made you decide to write a book about mothers, The Eternal Bond?
I wrote this book because I couldn't find what I needed. After my mother passed away, I read everything, like every grief book I could find, trying to find something that would actually ease my pain and my suffering. And I even went to theology libraries in the area, looking for maybe ancient texts or looking for something. And it was very unusual if I found anything that was really something that really could help me. I didn't necessarily consciously make this decision until I started talking to other women who had lost their mothers, because everywhere I went, I would share with women, that I had lost my mother. Then they would share their stories and they would tell me about their mothers and that they were still very much connected to them, whether it was through visions or through dreams, or maybe they would see a symbol. But that was incredibly reassuring to me. And I thought, I really want to document other women's stories. And so I began to write the book. I mean, my mother passed in 2007. I began to collect stories. I wrote another book before this, If Joan of Arc Had Cancer. But this book now, which I'm really excited about, I think it will offer some solace and offer empowerment tools for women and also validate their experiences of connection.
I was listening to something you talked about, the whole medical profession, how when you're in hospitals and around medical people, that there are all these stories about dreams and visions and everything that people have at hospitals, but nobody wants to talk about them.
There are people, and a multitude of people, who are dismissive of dreams or visions or any kind of connection because it's, quote, non-scientific. But actually, I did the research because I wanted to find out, is this true? Is this not true? There is a lot of research that actually quantifies that people who have some kind of experience with their loved ones is very frequent, but it's not talked about. And when people go to for example, if they go to their family physician when they're suffering during grief, they're usually given a prescription or told, well, you're kind of kooky, for feeling like you had that experience. Now, I want to quantify, I am not against prescriptions. If anybody who needs drugs, I think that's very important, especially if you're suicidal or you can't function. I totally support that. But there other things that you can do as well that will support you, whether you're going to a grief group, whether you're, I got massage every week from a friend, which really helped me because often our pain lives somatically, in our bodies. So massage was a way that I could cry because I didn't feel verbal at
Mm,
that time. I couldn't really talk about it. So I always urge people to kind of look at what would be supportive to them. Sometimes aromatherapy. I'm a big believer in you don't have to exercise, but take a walk, get out of your house even for an hour a day. Because I want to remind people who might be listening, you're not your grief. You're grieving, but that is not the totality of who you are. So it's important to recognize that.
mhm. And I know you talk a bit about that you yourself went to a psychic, right?
Yeah, I have. I mean, I've done a lot of training in mediumship and in intuitive work, but it's difficult to read for yourself, so to speak, and to get that connection. If you're going to go see someone, wait. Don't go the first month or two or three, wait at least 6 or 8 months after somebody has passed. And the reason for that is you're incredibly vulnerable, and I would like people to feel a little more strengthened, when they go. Make sure you go to somebody who's reputable, ask friends and family so you have a name of somebody. Beware, beware, beware of anybody who says, I'm the only one who can bring your mother to you. I'm the only one who can do this. I'm the only person you should see, and therefore sign up for the next 3 or 4 readings. That is a definite, definite red flag. Also, be wary of people who charge a lot of money,
Mhm.
for this. I'm also a big fan of if you're going to see someone, interview them first and
Mhm.
say, this is what I'm looking for. Is this something that you feel comfortable with? What is your fee? Make sure you get the information and do your homework and do your research because unfortunately, there are really great people who are mediums and can help connect you. But there are also mediums who I think are not ethical and actually prey on people who are vulnerable. So I want you to be careful.
Mhm. Yeah. Do you want to share a personal experience of your with your mother and medium?
I can tell you, I went to a bad medium, who told me, oh, your mother loved couture clothing and she was always dressed to the nines. And she was telling me things about my mother's personality that were totally untrue. My mother was anything but somebody who dressed up like that. And then when I corrected her and I said, well, that's not her. I don't know who you're picking out, but that's not her. She argued with me. Oh no, I'm right. And that's why I tell people to be wary. I also tell people to be wary of people that say, well, you need to let go. You need to let go of this connection. And I can tell you, I went to a meeting that was attended by mediums and people who do a lot of psychic work. And I was berated for my philosophy because I said, well, I don't believe that. I don't believe that my mother would abandon me because she loves me and love is eternal,
Mhm.
right? And the energy is eternal. So I'm just not buying that. And people were annoyed.
Did they want you to say, okay, your mother's dead and gone? Is
Pretty much I was
saying,
impeding her growth by
oh,
wanting to be with her or see her.
Oh, she couldn't leave because you wouldn't let her go.
I think everybody's connection is sacred, and I think
mhm.
everybody's connection is private and personal. So, whatever connection you have with someone that you really love continues.
I know one of the things that you said was you can't depend on a visitation.
Yes, yes. And I'm glad you brought that up. Our yearning doesn't mean they're automatically going to appear, the people that we love. I mean, if I could make that happen, I would have my mother sit with me every single day. So it's a conversation, it's a two-way street between you and your loved one. So if they choose to show up in a vision, that's fabulous. Maybe they choose to show up in a dream, or maybe this sense of like inner knowing that you know they're with you, next to you in some way, energetically, or maybe they send a bird in the morning for you to look at. So, it's not up to you. I wish, I really wish.
So if we want to connect with them, we just need to be open, it sounds like, to the way that they're going to show up, whether it be a dream, a bird, some kind of sign.
Absolutely. You can intend, right?
Okay.
You can make that intention before you go to sleep. Keep a dream diary. You can intend to meet your loved one in your dream. That's why I suggest, keeping a record of that is great because you might not realize it. You can ask the person that you love to show up in a way that they feel comfortable in doing. Dr. Horsley asked me earlier about, connection with my mom and that experience. And I think the best message I ever received from her was she said, "You get to keep your heart,"
Mm,
which I thought was really profound. So I, I keep photographs on my desk. I talk to her every morning. I usually wear a necklace that she gave me. So I keep that connection, viable. And I also want to say to anybody who is working, with clients or with patients who are in grief that if you're unable to function or if you're feeling suicidal, then it's okay to ask for help. It's actually necessary to ask for help. And I would also say to friends and family, if you see somebody who's really suffering, to be their friend and say, I think you could use some help. I'd
mhm.
like to help you. Let's figure out together who would be the best person to talk to. And maybe it's a physician, maybe it's a therapist. The first year after my mother passed, I mean, I was a mess. I mean, that's quite honestly what happened to me. I cried. I was in great pain. Writing for me was the only thing that actually gave me balance and where I felt safe. So that was sort of my balm. Like I knew that would help me. I eventually found a therapist who was really open to visions and, quote, otherworldly spiritual occurrences, and that was incredibly healing. That took a while, and I also suggest to people interview therapists,
Mhm.
and ask questions. Have they had a loss? Are they willing to help you feel more empowered during your journey? And what would that look like? Grief is a terrible thing, right? It's a wound that we live with, and we live with the rest of our life. It does not go away. I'm sorry to tell you. It changes, it definitely changes, but I'm very interested in how people can feel empowered in the journey and
Mhm.
not let the wound take over, and look at the wound as this is my strength. This is my resilience. This made me who I am today.
And this gives me compassion.
That's a great point. It does.
Mhm.
It absolutely does.
I wanted to ask you, you did some interviews with Indigenous healers, is that right?
I have. Anybody who's interested, if they go online at through Nova Southeastern University, the Alvin Sherman Library, there is a free archive. And um, I've studied with healers for years, and I was very interested in talking to people who were Indigenous healers about their journey, about vision quests, about their healing. And yeah, I just find it really interesting because different cultures approach healing in a different way.
Do you find, is there anything unique to all of them?
My answer would be they all believe in the sacredness of the healing path.
Mm,
You know, they're very aware of the spiritual components of healing. They're every one that I talked to had kind of a different way, a different process, which is interesting, you know, in itself. But everybody spoke about the sacredness of healing, you know, which I think is great. And one of the reasons I teach spirituality in medicine is I want to remind medical students how privileged they are to work with people at their most vulnerable
mm,
and kind of change the culture a little bit. That's my dream.
I love that.
I love that. Tell us where people can find you, where they can get your new book.
Dr. Janet Lynn Roseman at GoDaddySites.com. You can order the book at Llewellyn. If you look up Llewellyn.com and type in The Eternal Bond, the book is available. It just came out last week, so this is great timing. And you can also order it from Amazon, so whatever people would prefer.
Absolutely wonderful. And you've got some great healing tips in there also.
Thank you, Dr. Janet Roseman, and thank you for building awareness among the professional community also, and helping them to help clients find hope after loss and patients.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. That is my goal.
Great. It's been wonderful to have you on the show today. And we want to thank everybody for listening and watching this show today. And we always want to remind you that if you've lost hope, please lean on ours until you find your own. And God bless.
I'm Dr. Heidi Horsley. You have been listening to Open to Hope, the podcast. You can follow Open to Hope on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. To learn more, visit us at opentohope.com and go to Apple Podcasts to subscribe.
I'm Dr. Gloria Horsley. Join us again next week for another Open to Hope conversation, where we invite you to lean on our hope until you find your own.